Gentlemen, ladies, small furry creatures from Shinobi space. I don't mean to alarm you, but we've got some beef. No, sorry, it's just a reflex action at this point. Some hype! Hype! Oh, my God. It feels so good to have something to be excited about. It feels so good to have something to be happy about. And I have lots of happy and exciting things to be about. And I want to share them with you. And I think it's going to get you excited as well. Because I was at the Warlord Games open day this weekend, and it was excellent. Not only were there lots of cool things to see and to take part in, there's also lots of really, really good information about the upcoming releases for Konflikt 47, Bolt Action, and other games. And also, there was lots. There was some very, very interesting things that were said by the Konflikt 47 team, which I think many of you are going to find very exciting. But I also think many of you are going to find very reassuring, especially if, in the wargaming world, there's been a little bit of turbulence recently. I'm trying not to, say the quiet part out loud. But if you know, there's been some maneuvers that have been happening from other by a certain other company that, it's been bothering people a little bit. And it's very interesting because when I tell you about some of the things that were said in the Konflikt 47 seminar at the open day, I think it's going to really, it's going to reassure a lot of people, and it's going to make a lot of people go, maybe I should check this Konflikt thing out. All right. It was really big. It was really important. It was really awesome. And because of that, I'm going to save it to the end. I'm going to blue ball you for the first bits of the highlight. Now, I know that this is a bit of an unusual way of doing a summary of the Warlord Open Day. I know when I've done these in the past, I've actually done them pre-recorded. And I've also had like pictures and stuff thrown up. I will still be trying to do that. This one's going to be a little bit more rough around the edges because I am essentially doing it as part of a live stream. But the reason I'm doing it this way is because, A, if you want to see the sort of pre-recorded Warlord Open Day stuff, the tour that you go on is the same every year. So I've already kind of done that in previous videos. So please feel free to type in Mordian Glory Warlord Open Day, and you'll see things like metal casting and Scio casting and resin casting and all that kind of good stuff in detail there. What I want to do is go through a brief overview of that for those people that maybe haven't seen it before and show off some of the goodies stuff that I got. But what I want to do is, like I said, share some of the information from the seminars. But the reason I'm doing this live is because I want to be able to take some questions from you guys in the chat at the same time, because I know that many of you won't have been there. And if I do this as a pre-recorded video, I'll think of some of the questions that you probably had, but I won't think of all of them, right? So this is the reason why I'm doing it like this way is so that I can sort of answer the questions that you guys have got at the same time. All right. So here's an example right here. Dexian Gaming Corner. Did Warlord mention that the plastic roadmap is out of date because we were at the end of Q3 and no mention of US infantry? Some things have absolutely been moved around, but I think they were asked, are we going to be getting a new roadmap? So people asked in the seminar, the roadmap's a bit got all over the place. We've had some stuff early, which is great, some stuff which hasn't turned up. Are we going to be getting a new updated roadmap? And they did say that, yes, we will be getting a new updated roadmap. They've got to dot a few I's, cross a few T's, but they're going to be locking in on a few things so that we can have a clearer roadmap going forward. One of the reasons why the roadmap has been slightly all over the place is Warlord has been slightly suffering from success. Hey, it's a good problem to have. I've mentioned this earlier, but weeks ago, but I mentioned it again. I mentioned it weeks ago, but Warlord actually, one of the cool things about the K47 seminar is they were so open about things. And one of the things they said is that the game has been so successful, it's gone beyond anything they ever expected. They said it has exceeded our wildest, most optimistic business projections for the project. And as a result, what's happened is they've been able to do so much more in this first year than they originally planned. But this also has led to them learning some lessons and having to work out how they can get more production in the pipeline, essentially. So that's why some things have been moved around. That's why some things have come early and all that kind of good stuff. But the point is that now they've sort of learned those lessons in the first year, and they're now applying those lessons for the future. And so hopefully when we get the next roadmap, it'll be a bit more stable than the last one. All right. Now, with that, so that's an example of what I'm talking about. You know, you guys can ask questions and I can answer them, which is a lot easier to do as part of a live stream than it would be as part of like a pre-recorded video. Okay. So with that said, let me take you through the overview of what the open day is like. So the open day is held at Warlord HQ in Nottingham. And what you've got the store, which you can go into, and obviously you can buy stuff like you can anyway. But the big thing about the open day is you get some swag, and I'll be showing off some of the bits of goodies that I got. And also, you get taken around on the tour. Now, they actually do tours fairly regularly, not just on the open day. But one of the advantages of it being on the open day is they make sure they've got all of the design studio staff, all of the head honchos are in there as well. So you get to actually meet the people at Warlord Games. It helps put faces to names. So, for example, Alessio Cavatore, I think it's Cavatore or Cavator, I'm never quite sure how to pronounce his name. He wrote Bot Action. He did lots of other things. He's a bit of a wargaming legend. He wrote things like the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game and everything, which was excellent. Obviously, the GW has worked on a new edition of that now, which has kind of been a bit mixed, but he wrote the original version, which was very, very well regarded. He basically runs the Bot Action team, and you can literally go and talk to Alessio and ask him questions. Hey, what was your inspiration behind this? What's your favorite unit? All this kind of stuff. And he's just wandering around. And so are people in the K47 design team, and you can go meet all the painters and see what they're working on. And also what they tend to do, and I love this about Warlord Games, is they don't do this as much on the normal tour, so there's always an element of it, but on the open day, they really kind of give you a peek behind the curtain, like, oh, look at this interesting model that I happen to be working on my screen. So to give you an example of this, you just let me bring up my pictures here. I kind of had this prepared before. To give you an example of this, one of the big bits that so the first thing you do is the first stop is the design studio, where you get to meet people. I think you get people. I think his name is pronounced Wojtek. I'm always mispronouncing. I do apologize. He's a 15-year veteran of Warlord Games. He is responsible for sculpting some of their best models. He's a very, very talented bloke, really, really top bloke, and he is there like every year, and he just kind of very sort of cheekily goes, oh, I'm just working on this. You might want to take a look at this, for example. So he had up on his screen whilst I was going around the design that he's got for the new plastic Zis gun, which seems to be coming soon. So if you've been enjoying the plastic pack guns for the Germans and the plastic 57 millimeters for the Americans and 6-pounders for the British, you've been enjoying all of those new things. It looks like we might be getting a plastic Soviet Zis gun, which is very, very cool. And so that's for a lot of people, they're going to be very happy about that. Anyone who's built the metal Zis gun, you're going to be breathing a huge sigh of relief. There's a plastic one coming. And not just a plastic Zis gun, but also some plastic Russian, plastic Soviet heavy weapon teams as well. And as you can see on the screen here, it looks like we might be getting a plastic Dushka soon, which I know I've been wanting to get myself a few heavy machine guns for my K47 Soviets, and I've been waiting eagerly for the plastic variant to come along. So there you are. So it looks like we'll be great for Bot Action, great for K47. I absolutely love it. And one of the things that he showed me with the Zis gun is that it's going to have. I love this level of autistic detail. All right, because for most people, what you see here would be enough, right? The fact that, hey, look, that's a Zisk gun. But in the plastic kit, from what I can see, you're going to have like 2 different muzzle breaches for the Zisk gun. One to represent when it was used only as an anti-tank gun. One when it was represented when it was used more of a field gun. Like, it's a tiny detail, but that's going to be, it makes 0 difference in game, right? Let me make something clear. It's literally, they're going to be adding more parts into the box just so if you are someone that's like, well, actually, this unit only ever had the variant with this muzzle brake and that and this battle, you can do that now. You are being accommodated. Your special gifts from God are going to be well satiated. And there was, speaking of some other stuff that's got, some new plastic kits that are coming for bolt action. He showed me them, but I wasn't allowed to take pictures of them. He showed me some of the plastic Polish that they're going to be working on, and holy shit. I've been meaning to get another plastic army for bot action for a while. I really like the idea of going for the Polish stuff because they can take big 20-man squads, and I'm a horde guy, right? I'm a horde guy, and I've wanted to have Polish in bot action forever, but the reason I've not pulled the trigger on it is because they only have meta models at the moment, and if I want to run like 4 20-man squads, I'm gonna want that in plastic. Right? I'm gonna want that in plastic. So yeah, so that's coming down the pipeline. Also, for I think it's both the Polish and the French, there's plastic. I think it's like 75mm, or I don't know exactly what the measurement is, but 75mm field guns. And again, to really massage your historical autism, I think they said this gun is going to come with 3 different sets of wheels. Okay? So again, this will have no impact whatsoever on the game, but it's just because there were certain kinds of wheels depending on which army was using it, or which formation was using it, or which regiment, whatever it was, or division was using it. So you are going to be able to have the exact correct wheels on your French gun. Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's these new kits that are going to be coming in plastic. There's they're really knocking it out of the park with them. They're really trying very hard to get the extra detail in there, to pay the fine attention to those bits, because they know that you guys, because Warlord kind of respects the history, okay? But not only that, they kind of respect you, and they know they might not be able to fit every last minute detail on, but if at the very least they can show willing, hopefully that'll generate some goodwill, and people will go, hey, they didn't have to add 4 extra wheels. They could have just put the 2 wheels on there, but they added the extra ones on so that I could have the right bit. And so, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I believe this is the wheels were a time thing. It might even be a time period thing, right? But the point is, we're getting 6 sets of fucking wheels on the French gun, which is amazing. There was one other thing. They are going to be doing Polish cavalry as well. And originally, they weren't going to have them with lances, because the historical evidence for the Polish ever actually charging tanks with lances is, from my understanding, non-existent. But Warlord, they thought about it and they were like, even if it's not completely historically accurate, even if the evidence for it is kind of weak, we know that it's kind of one of those urban legends that has like built up around the Polish effort of World War II. And we know that there's a certain element of romanticism to it. And we know that our players would want to, would maybe want to recreate it, even if it's just like Ob was saying, that was literal propaganda, even if it is propaganda. So the Polish cavalry is going to come with the options of lances. So if you're someone that's like, I want to play with my Polish cavalry historically accurately, they didn't have the lances, then you're done. You're sorted. You're great. But if you're someone that's like, I want to see like a what if scenario. What would have happened if we had lances versus Panzer IIs and stuff? And you can have that as well. So again, you're getting the historical accuracy, which is awesome, but also they're looking after the community at the same time. So that's awesome. So all of this you just learn from wandering around the design studio. And it's so open. I mean, Warlord themselves is basically like just leaking this stuff, which is crazy. Can you imagine going around like any other like company's design studio and then them being like, hey, look at this. This is going to be coming in 3 months. Like, it's amazing. But it goes such a long way to generating community goodwill. It feels nice. You feel special, and it gives you something to look forward to. So, now I already have 2 Ziz guns for my Soviets. I really don't need any more of them. So obviously I'm going to be buying 2 more in plastic when they come out. I already have 3, I think 3, maybe 2 or 3 MMG teams for my Soviets. I really don't need any more. So obviously I'm going to be getting shitloads of the plastic ones, right? Because the metal ones were fine, but plastic kits are better, right? Yeah. So there you go. Now, let me just have a quick look here. So that's the first stop, but it is certainly not the only stop because there's loads of other cool bits to see as well. So let's go back here. So we had the Ziz gun, we had the Soviet teams there. They also had some cool. This is again just in the design studio. They also had some cool like display boards and stuff. So you can see here. You've got this is linebacker X01. So this was the first linebacker that was ever made, and you can see like a bit of a prototype, and you can see it's being pushed into service to try and fight the Onryos in Invasion America and all that kind of stuff. And you've got it's just a really cool. This is a cool display board, and you can see just some of the Japanese Ghost Warriors fighting around, a mixture of the old ones and the new ones. You've got the Tesla turret. Now, obviously, this has been released as a free STL, so that's kind of cool. So there's some real eye candy as well. There you go, X1 for the first prototype linebacker. There's the new Onryo. If you really want a close-up, sexy pic of the new Onryo, look at that. I took that and I thought, because you can see it in Invasion America, but that is really a good close-up of it without anything getting in the way of it. Look at that beast. Yeah. Picture of new Slammer Samuels taking on Kimura Tadaki, the Scourge of the Spirit Realm. Very nice. There's going to be a video at some point here. There you go. Is it muted? There it is. There you go. So yeah, I took a video. Can I replay that? There you go. So Chansey was with me on the open day. So there we are. So Chansey was there. Alex was there. Alex always, I never wear my Mordian Glory t-shirt when I go out. Alex always wears it. And we always joke that Alex is my Saddam Hussein body double. And he's like, get down, Mr. President. So we must have been to like a dozen events right now. And Alex has always been my body double. Yeah. There we are. So you can see, this is the design studio, and you just got loads of cool shit that you can see. Also, they have a cabinet with loads of new and old models in it. So this is all the stuff that you can see them using in the some of this stuff. This is all stuff that's been released or is been announced, and you can see this is the stuff that they use in the pictures when they for both on the website for the models, and also you can see it for the the rule books and the army books and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so lots of cool stuff to see. They've got a memorial to Paul Sawyer, so to the fat bloke, which is I think that's right and proper in it. So there we go. The Incredible Hulk job bursting out of shirts. There you are. And then we've got some of the cool models that you can see. I think some of these have been released. I think these are a lot of the Soldier of Fortune kind of models as well, which is excellent. And then we get to the bit which I'm sure many of you are going to be very, very excited about. This is the desk of John. John is one of the lead designers for models of Konflikt 47. One of the first models that he worked on, the first two models he worked on, I think, was he helped work on the linebacker. And then the first model he ever designed from scratch was the Mollet. And there's a funny story with the Mollet, how it was the first model that they let him design. And it was originally meant to be a replacement, not replacement, it was originally meant to be an updated model for the Kazakh, but he kept adding more armor onto it and making it bigger. And by the time it was finished, they were like, that's not a Kazakh, John. That's an entirely new mech. And he was like, yeah, but it looks cool. And they were like, fuck's sake. Okay, it is cool, so we're definitely going to make it. But can you now also make a redesign for the Kazakh? He was like, yeah, all right. Now, John's desk is always a treasure trove of bits and pieces, many of which are not all, many of which are new things that are coming down the pipeline. Some of these won't make the cut, or haven't made the cut, or have left on the cutting room floor. But many of them, they do seem to be potentially things to look forward to. So the big, because he designs and prints just a lot of stuff in his spare time, right? So the big question with a lot of this stuff is, what's a prototype that's going to make it to the game, and what is just a personal project of John's. And the fun part is trying to work out which is which. So not everything you see here will make it into the game, but some of the things you see here absolutely will do. So let's have a look at some of the stuff that's on John's desk. So we'll start off down here. So you can see there is it's labeled here, a Percival. That's a British mech, but it says with rad cannon and HMGs. Very interesting. Do we think that is a legit model? Do we think that's one of John's special creations? There you are. We've got a Chinu with twin Shiboru cannon. We've got a Chaffee with a light Tesla turret. Now that would be we've got Stuarts with light Tesla turrets, and we know that Warlord is releasing a new plastic Chaffee. Are we going to see a plastic Chaffee with Tesla turret? Maybe. Now, for me personally, out of all of these, don't get me wrong, I love the mechs, right? I love the mechs, but you guys know me. I'm a main tank kind of guy, right? I am at first and foremost, the thing that gets me out of bed and gets my dick hard is a proper tank. You know, what I would call like a main battle tank, but obviously in World War II, they didn't have that. They had light, medium, and heavy, and like super heavy tanks, right? But, you know, the equivalent for me in bolt action / K47 is there a proper medium tank? And so this here, this was the bit, out of all the weird and wonderful things on John's desk, this is the bit that really started getting me salivating, because that is a Sherman Easy 8 with multiple different turret options. It looks like we've got a heavy Tesla cannon on there. It looks like we might have a twin Tesla cannon on there. And again, weirdly, just because I love that conventional shit, that looks like an Easy 8 with twin autocannon. Gentlemen, I think we just got the K47 Russ Exterminator right here. I am going to run so many. I mean, think about this. We've got Sherman Executioner, Sherman Exterminator. Right? Oh my God. Yeah. So I'm just saying, if we get an Easy 8 with twin autocannon turret, and potentially even with swappable twin autocannon and twin and Tesla, I am going to be a very, very, very happy bunny because I might have a number of Shermans already, but I don't have any easy 8s, and I've been holding off. I got loads of the M4s, but I'm looking for some easy 8s. Yeah. There you go. Sherman Vank with the Firefly. Exactly, right? So, and I see this thing. I'm a guard player at heart. You give me a proper fucking medium tank that I can slap. Guys, can you imagine my 50th Infantry Division, my National Guard boys rocking up, and suddenly we're rocking like multiple fucking Shermans with Tesla and autocannons? Boys, come on. You know that's my dream right there. You know that's my dream. I might not be able to run infantry and tanks in 40k right now, but if I will, whichever game lets me run them, that's the game I'm going to be fucking playing, right? That's what I'm going to be fucking playing, right? Now, we've also got some other bits over here that might very much appeal. So, we've got a Mark II automated platform and what looks like updated Mark 1s. So these ones here are the new, these ones here are the old Mark 1s. These ones here are what look like to be new Mark 1s. Now, what's really interesting to me is the Mark 1s seem to be very similar. So this looks like an updated version of the anti-tank version. This looks like an updated version of the howitzer version. I do love it's got a backpack mounted howitzer. I love the fact that it's got like a sleeve of howitzer rounds that just picks them up and puts them in the howitzer on its back and fires them. That's brilliant. And then look at that for the machine gun. I mean, it's just a giant bucket of, it's just a giant vat of heavy bolter of 50 cal rounds on the back, and then it's just got a fucking Gatling cannon. They've gone from having three like HMGs to just having basically a goddamn assault cannon. Yes, 1,000 times yes. But the big one for me here is, fuck me, look at how evil that Mark II looks. Look, the Mark 1s, you know, they kind of look a little cute, a little cuddly, like they're just fun little guys, you know, just kind of just like a little do. Look at me, I'm a little robot with tracks. And you get to the Mark II, and it's just like, oink. Yeah, it's very, very fucking Skynet. It's very, very, very fucking Skynet. So, yeah, that's pretty badass. I've seen a few people say that, you know, the British kind of remind them of like Necrons in 40k, and I think there definitely is an element of that when you look at the walking around the ultimate infantry, like the Mark 1 walking dudes and the Mark 2 walking dudes. But this is giving me like serious fucking like AdMech vibes. Like, I've wanted an AdMech army for a long time, but I just can't really be fucked with the fiddly models for them, right? And I think I'm not saying anything controversial there. I think that's a fairly held sentiment. AdMech, beautiful models, but fiddly is all hell, right? Now, I could definitely see myself. Well, I already have a British army for K47, but I could definitely see myself going like full AdMech on the British. I really hope that we get some like human engineers to sort of go along with them. So, you know, you've got like these guys which are kind of like the servitors, and then you've got the human engineers that, you know, like the engineers, as it were, going around like maintaining them and tinkering with them and all that kind of stuff. But this guy looks incredible. This Mark II guy looks absolutely wicked. There's something here called the Mark III Pantheon, but it's just an empty base. Now, when asked about this, Warlord said that they originally were going to show it off, but it's just so cool that they actually they're not even going to let influencers see it, not for ages. And the thing is that basically it's meant to be so cool and so good that they wanted the first time for anybody to see it is when they sort of like open their book up and they just go like, wow, what the fuck is that? So we know that there's a Mark III coming. We just have no idea what that Mark III is. Yeah. Now behind them, you've got the new Grizzly, Kodiak, and Bruin. So for all of you that have been hearing rumors, rumblings, and other such things about a new plastic Grizzly coming along, well, I think you can now see it with your own eyes. This is the new design for it. It's had so in universe, the original Grizzlies were the A8, I think is what they were called. These ones are the A10s. So the point is that these, this is not like the Grizzly hasn't just magically come about this way. The original Grizzly models are absolutely still 100% canon and 100% usable in game, right? So nobody's models are getting invalidated. Nobody's models are getting taken away, and nobody's models are going to be unusable in any way, shape, or form. What we are seeing, the original, in the timeline of K47, the original Grizzlies were kind of invented and brought about in about 1945, I think it was. And these ones are the ones that are coming about much later in the Rift War. These are the ones that are being deployed in 1947. So essentially, the original Grizzlies have been going around doing their things, but with the rapid nature of the Rift War, technology that was brought in 2 years ago is already being made obsolete. Not obsolete, but it's kind of being like superseded. And before anyone goes, oh, well, that seems a bit weird, that's exactly what happened in World War II. If you look at the equipment that people were going into combat with not even at the beginning, in sort of mid World War II, it's completely different to what they were using at the end of World War II. I mean, look at, the Tiger tank, for example, and then look at the King Tiger. It was only a few short years when the King Tiger came out after the Tiger won, right? So this is very much in keeping with the idea of, war leads to a breakneck pace of weapons development, because you're not just coming up with stuff that's in theory, like in interwar times. You're actually coming up with stuff based on like battlefield data. Yeah, exactly. The original Grizzly is the first iteration of the mech. The new Grizzly is the same as the E2 and the E8 Sherman. Exactly, right? Now, really, really, I don't know if this is going to pan out, by the way. So don't take this as gospel. But I heard that Warlord was considering, so this may not pan out, considering having a way of you being able to differentiate between the new Grizzlies and the old Grizzlies if you wanted to in game. But it's not like hard and fast, if that makes sense. So my understanding is that the old Grizzlies will be there, and they'll, but then there'll be like a weapon option, I think. So it's not going to have a separate entry. It's not going to have like a separate data sheet. You have the same unit entry, and you have the same basic loadout that you have now, but there'll be like a weapon option, or like I don't know if it's like a weapon option or add like an extra piece of armor on. Maybe it's like add reinforcement armor or something. So if you want to, when on battlefield, if you're like, I want to differentiate between the old Grizzly and the new Grizzly, I can do that. But it's an optional upgrade, not a you must do this. It's from what I understand. Is what I'm understanding, and that's my understanding of how they're doing it. But that may not pan out. That absolutely may not pan out. I think one of the ideas they said is they might want to give both Grizzlies are going to be. This being the Grizzly, for example, both Grizzlies are going to be the same, but maybe for like a few points, you could upgrade the cannon up here to be rapid fire, so it gets to fire like 2 shots rather than 1. And the idea, but you don't have to do that, right? So and likewise, you could still use if you have your OG Grizzly, and you just want to upgrade that to be rapid fire, that's also totally fine. Like, there's nothing stopping you from using the old models and upgrading them with all the new shit and going nuts with them, right? See what I mean? So so I like that. It's like, hey, if you've got the old models, you're totally looked after. If you got the new models, you're totally looked after. If in game you want to show the difference between like the E8, the A8 and the A10, then here's a way you can do it. But If you don't want to do that, you don't have to in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. So, yeah, there you are. The OG Grizzly lacks the hull MGs. Those have. That's true. But it's got the HMG on top, hasn't it? So that might be an HMG sticking out the front. I'm not sure. Also, you've got to remember that, you know, these might be, these are probably, some of these are probably like prototype as well. So, as in when I say prototype, like there's stuff like John's design. So he might have stuck some extra bits on. So these should give you a good idea of what is likely to be involved with the Grizzly kits. But, you know, some of it might end up actually, you know, you might not have this extra machine gun here, for example, right? I'm loving the shoulder gun than the belly gun. Yeah, exactly. Some people love belly gun and some people love the fucking shoulder cannon, right? And guess what? Now you can have both. You don't, it's not one or the other. By the way, I have no idea if Warlord is going to continue to sell the old Grizzly kit. They might do. They might not. I genuinely don't know. We've not seen them replace too many things and taken them off sale. We've not seen that. It might just be that the current Grizzly kit goes to made to order. So they just make it as and when. And the new Grizzly kit is the one that you'll see stocked on shelves and stuff like that. Yeah. But Warlord was very keen to sort of iterate that they're not trying to stop anybody from using any of their existing models. Yeah. The design for these is so much cooler than the current ones. I like the old ones because I think they have a certain level of very derpy charm. But I think that the new ones are going to be much more appealing to the everyman on the street. Yeah. Yeah. The old Grizz looks like a nation's first try at a mech. The new Grizz looks like it's a brawler mech. Exactly. Now, down here, we've got something interesting, which is Wotan / Thor revamp. So we might be getting a new Wotan or Thor model. I mean, we know everything is going to get replaced, like eventually, in plastic. But I think this is going to be a bit of a, how to put this? This is one of John's prototypes, shall we say? I don't know if this is going to end up being actually how it looks and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Or if I don't think this is coming down the pipe anytime too soon. I could be wrong though. I could be wrong. I didn't actually ask about it, so I might be wrong. We've then got some more stuff coming here. So we've got what looks like a revamp for the Coyote and the Jackal. So it looks like the Coyote, it can come with the fists that you know and love. So the classic sort of boxy dreadnought kind of fist hands with the big fingers, or apparently some sort of like Centurion-esque rock drill. I don't fucking know. Maybe some sort of like breaching drill kind of thing. I imagine there won't be any difference in terms of rules. I'd be very surprised if there's any difference between the fists and the drills. I think it'll be an aesthetic choice. Do you want drill hands? Do you want finger hands? It's going to be up to you. I have no idea. Maybe there will be a difference. But normally, I mean, maybe there will. I have no idea. Yeah. Merlin revamp. It looks pretty similar to the current Merlin. It just looks like it's slightly more posable. And the shoulder cannons are a bit of an upgrade. But that actually, this is a huge departure from the current Grizzly. Bloody hell. That's because I just took some close-ups. The problem of doing live TV. This looks like much more of a spiritual successor than a true like replacement model, as it were. Like this one alongside the current one, you probably wouldn't be able to tell them apart from a few feet away. Yeah, which is good. That's how it should be. Some models should get a glow up. Some models should just get a some models should get a new iteration. Some models should just get a bit of a glow up. Yeah. The tiny Sturmriser, I am 99.999999% certain you are not getting a tiny Sturmriser unit. I think that is literally just a cute little baby. And then we've got some other bits on here. As always, you can see we've got the hover Stewart. Now I can confirm that the hover Stewart isn't coming to game. So this is one of the things they revealed. They were very, very open about this in the open day. Someone asked them, was there any mechanics that didn't make it into the game? Any things that got left on the cutting room floor? And they instantly were like, hover. They were like, we originally had a hover mechanic, but we ended up not putting it into the game because we just couldn't get it to feel right. And we were like, rather than shoving a mechanic in purely because, fuck it, just put it in there. Actually, if we're going to add something into the game, we want to add it in and have it feel like it makes sense in the universe and everything. Which is cool. I'll dive into that a little bit more when we get to the reassuring things that they said about Konflikt at the end. But that's a sort of little sneak preview to a bit of foreshadowing for what's coming. It's all very positive. So lots of really cool shit. I got some close-ups here. There you are. Okay, so I took a picture of this thing here. There were lots of people that were like, oh my God, what the fuck is that? Is that coming to Konflikt 47? Apparently, that is not coming to Konflikt 47. Apparently, that's... apparently, it's from a different game, which I think they said like the Judge... Is it like Judge Dredd? Or maybe one of the other games that Warlord used to do, which they don't do anymore, kind of thing. So obviously that's about action. So that I saw it and was like, holy shit, is that coming? Apparently, it's an ARL 44. Yeah. Do you not remember that from D-Day? But yeah, I saw it and I knew that people... It's from Gates of Antares, is it? Or something? Fair enough. But yeah, that's not coming to... that's not coming. All right. Here's a big one. I think Valrak might have teased this one a little bit. This is a new Soviet tank, which John is working on. I have no idea what it's called, but he showed me a version which apparently, and to quote John here, the scientific term he used is, that's a shitload of heavy machine guns on the front of it. It's beautiful. And also, it's got, was it autocannons? No, correction. That is a shitload of light autocannons. But apparently Dan, who's the head of the K-47 team, doesn't like light autocannon spam because he always gets wrecked by them in game. So he's trying to get it past Dan, get it onto the vehicle. But apparently Dan is being a bit resistant to it. I also saw a ZP variant as well. And I think there was an anti-tank gun variant as well. Yeah. Officially, normally a shitload of autocannons. Yep. There's a Dushka on top as well. Now, I have no clue what that is. I think, I don't know if Barak was taking the piss, but he said it was called the Rhino. Now, it might be called the Rhino, or maybe that was just Barak saying it looks like a Rhino. I don't know. It would be absolutely hilarious if it was called the Rhino, though, for two reasons. One, obviously, 40K. But two, I'm pretty certain the tank in Red Alert 2 that the Soviets get is a Rhino. It's the Rhino tank, right? You've got the, I think it's the Grizzly for the Allies, and it's the Rhino for the, Soviets in Red Alert 2. I think it is anyway. Yeah. Now, if you look, there is what looks like a transport hatch on the back here, but I've no idea that actually is a transport hatch. But if this is some kind of like mad heavy like tank transport or something. Oh my God. But boys, how fucking cool is that? I told you I'm a tank guy, right? I told you I'm a tank guy. Now just imagine slapping a couple of those down on the table and driving them forward. Imagine that. Imagine that, and then having a bunch of fucking Mark 1 or Mark 2 power armored guys fucking hopping out. And like, that's a goddamn armored fist squad right there. That's, yeah, that's just the imagery. The imagery of that is insane. Like, just imagine these big, like a couple of these big plows, like blasting through, you know, ruined cities, crushing barricades, bulldozing buildings down, plowing into the enemy lines of the Axis, and then the hatch comes down at the back, and out emerges like big, clanking, steaming, fucking like Soviet power armor, like "Ura, bliat, comrades!" And then they've got like fucking PP guns on each hand, and they're just like, yeah, like I came. Right now, look, I don't care if it's the more points efficient option to chuck my PP patrol in the back of a goddamn basic Studebaker truck. You better fucking believe if I can slap them in the back of a heavy fucking bulldozer thing, then yeah, I'm going to be doing that, right? Yeah. In Varek's picture, it says Rhino Assault Transport. Absolute cinema. Absolute cinema. That is amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Oh, it's at the top there. Yeah, look. It's at the top there. Rhino Assault Transport. Perfect. Actually, fucking perfect. That rolls up in the middle of the board and dumps a squad of Ursus, opponent ships themselves. Yeah. It's the goddamn Killdozer. It's our Killdozer, comrades. Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah. Perfect. Rhino's back, boys. You tried to kill them, and Warlord says, welcome back. Yeah, I mean, look at that thing. Honestly, the moment that anyone who's been on this channel a long time will get where this quote is from. If you know where it's from, let me know down in the comment section. But the moment that thing comes out, I'm going to say one thing. I'll take 6 of them. Very cool. That's not a great picture. I do apologize. Of that's Svetlana and the and her new sniper, Svetlana. But you can see the painted grizzly in the background. Look at how good that looks in the paint job, boys. Look at that. And also you've got the well, look, I think that's the plastic Percival, so you can see the arms are a little bit better proportion now than it's in the plastic version. That's kind of cool. Aha, yes. This is Captain, I think it's Captain Leo Bianchi. This is the new mutant paragon for the Americans. So he comes equipped with, so you can see his face is all fucked up and everything. And you can see he's sort of like, he's not really standing, he's standing kind of awkwardly, like unnaturally. Yeah, that's all part of his design. He's, you know, obviously he's been pretty fucked up by the Paragon serum. Yeah. Also known as Quagmire. Yeah, this is Captain Masturbator over here. Now, he comes with a Tesla rifle and with a katana. And let's put it this way. He wasn't given that katana. He's taken that katana. Yeah. So there you are. And there's a better picture of those things. I mean, look at that new Grizzly when it's all fucking painted up, boys. Look at that fucking thing. It's gorgeous. Imagine a bunch of those stomping around. Look, right. If you're down the local game club and you see someone stomping around with a couple of these bad boys, and you don't immediately go up to them and say, what the fuck is that? That looks amazingly cool. And don't just start wanting to learn about K-47, I can't fucking help you. At that point, you're a lost cause, right? Yeah. Yeah, like, just look, like, that is so eye-catching. That is so eye-catching. That is so badass. That is so cool. I know if I saw that, I would genuinely be like, I need to know what that is. Like, I need to know more about what this game is. Yeah. Not a fan still. Give me the old one. Have people who like this more though. Well, that's the great thing, Old Scratch Johnson. You're not going to miss out because your old one's still totally valid. Like 100%. Your old one is not going anywhere, and for the foreseeable future, you will be able to use your old one, and you can be busting riffs and having fun with it. No dramas whatsoever. Yeah. Jacob Strong, linebackers are infinitely more badass and look way more American. These are like mass-produced stamped trash mechs. That's because they kind of are, right? So, here's a good example of it, right? The Grizzly is the mass-produced mech of the US. The linebacker is the best that they can produce. Okay, it's the best. That's why it's got the sleekest design. That's why it comes with all of the Tesla guns and everything, right? The linebacker is the mech that is given to the elite formations of the US Army. The Grizzly is what everybody else gets. The Grizzly is what, hey, you're a new unit that we've just formed, like the 300th Infantry Division or something. I don't know. I'm just making that up. If that's a real division, I do apologize. We're shipping. Yeah, we're going to ship you out with all your equipment. Here are your Grizzlies. See what I mean? So the point is that these are meant to feel kind of clunky and mass produced. I mean, it's a Grizzly. It's meant to be a bit brutal and a bit crude, yeah. But Jeffrey Strong, it may not be for you. You may like it, you may not, but that's fine. Guess what, Jacob? The linebacker isn't going anywhere. Do you know what I mean? The linebacker isn't going anywhere, right? So if you like the linebacker, have fucking fun with the linebacker. Like, I fucking love the linebackers. Yeah. It's not a leftover. It's just a mass-produced vehicle. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not an elegant scalpel, right? Like, here's a good example. Here's a good way of looking at it. The linebacker, think about Scions versus Guardsmen. Okay? The linebacker is what is the sleek, cool, top-of-the-line mech that goes with your elite, cool, top-of-the-line jump troops. The Grizzly is like the Lehman Russ. They fucking churn these motherfuckers out, right? That's kind of how you want to think about it. Yeah. James Talks, super valid, my man. Just do my pale duties about good to complain about anything. No, that's fine. And this is the thing that this is the point I'm making. I really like the cool of this, but not everything is going to be for everyone. Some people in chat are looking at this and going, that's amazing. Some people in chat are looking at it and going, I prefer the linebacker. That's cool. Guess what? No models are getting replaced. No one is missing out. If you love linebackers, you get your linebackers, right? That's the best bit. Everybody has things to look forward to. Some bad pictures of the new Onryos. I do apologize. And this is, I think, the new French stuff that's coming. So big one for bot action here. French Foreign Legion. So this is the thing that Warlord has kind of been keeping under wraps until the open day. But we are officially getting French Foreign Legion models for bot action. And obviously you can use these as basic infantry inside your K-47 armies as well, if you so want. You can see, look, there's the French gun with 3 different kinds of wheels. So you can have all, that's what I was telling you about. Look at all the different wheels, boys. The wheel game is on point. Yeah, so lots of fucking cool stuff to look forward to, both bot action and K-47. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I mean, I've been thinking about getting a French army for a while, but I never pulled the trigger on it after I read about their diabolical performance in the Fall of France. I'm sorry, there'll be some French people that watch this. It was bad, okay? Like, you guys actually, like, I used to be very sympathetic, and then I listened to Anthony Beevor's World War II, and I listened to the Fall of France part of that, and actually it just made me really angry. So, look, I'm sorry. Like, you guys redeemed yourself later on. Excellent. But there's no way I'm getting an early war French army after listening to that book. But you know what I will absolutely fucking do? Get a French Foreign Legion army, and I will use that army alongside my existing Desert British army. So there you go, right? All right. And then we've got the new Gurkhas. Yeah. Pretty much everyone but de Gaulle shat the bed. Exactly, right? You still can't convince me that Charles Huntsinger wasn't an inside agent for the Nazis, right? The guy was literally responsible for the defense of the Ardennes, did everything humanly possible to make it possible for the Germans to break through, and then after the fall of France happened and the Vichy government was formed, became the head of defense. Like, there's no way that you are that incompetent and then get promoted into that position unless you are on the inside. Yeah. Anyway, there you are. Now, this is a little preview of Epic Zulu. So we've seen the infantry models for Epic Zulu and stuff like that, but you've also got some of the artillery that's coming. So eagle-eyed observers, you will be able to see some cannons, but also we've got cannons, we've got rockets, but rather worrying for our Zulu brothers, there is a Gatling gun. In fact, there's a couple of Gatling guns. You can see one there and one there, and so that doesn't bode well. But yeah, there you are. All right, and then we've got some Zulus over here, and they're not very. You can't see them very well in this picture, but trust me, I get some very nice pictures of the Zulus later on. I don't know what the fuck this is, but I took a picture of it, and it looks kind of cool. Is this Ottomans? Or British? I actually can't tell. It's Boer War. Boer War, baby. So Warlord has been talking about Boer War coming to bolt action for a very, very long time. And one of the things that people asked them about quite a lot during the open day was, when's Boer War coming? And they kept saying, have you seen the cabinet? Have you seen the models in the cabinet? Have you seen the models in the cabinet? So I think Boer War is tantalizingly close. Now, my understanding for the Boer War is that they had an idea at one point, because you'll notice these on square bases, right? They had an idea at one point to have it with a dual rule set. So for smaller battles, you could use bolt action rules for it. And for bigger battles, you could use black powder rules for it. So very interesting. I mean, to be fair, you could probably get some movement trade converters and actually end up being able to play both, not having to buy the models twice, right? But yeah, so it looks like the ongoing, long-running Boer War project is inching ever closer, and I, for one, am very much looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to a lot of the games, to be honest. Okay, so after the design, so all of that's in the design studio. There's so much that I missed, so much, right? There's so much to take in, but you don't quite get to see it all, right? So that in previous years, I've kind of gone around twice to try and get everything. Now, the next bit after that you go is to traditional resin casting. So this is kind of like if you're familiar with Forge World, kind of like you're familiar with GW, it's kind of like how Forge World used to be. Now, I've just got some pictures here of some of the stuff that was in the resin casting area. So they show you how they've got two different molds. They've got a flat mold because it's flat. They've got a hinge mold because it's got a hinge. Basically, you pour the resin into here, keep it laying flat. Once it dries, you pick them out, and that's how you can make things like boats. And then things for like Konflikt 47 and stuff tend to go in these hinge molds. And again, you pour the resin in the top, and then it sets, and then you open it and you pull the bits out. Traditional resin, and this is the biggest mold that they make. We'll come back to these things over here. No, they are not your mother's mechanical boyfriend. We'll get back to those in a moment. Well, there's a close-up picture of Kenneth. Now, there's some really cool models here in resin. Some of these are just like experimental things. Some of them are actual models that are going to be coming down the pipeline. For example, we can see some pretty cool French stuff here. I think this is the sumo and everything. I don't think any of these are necessarily prototypes. I think these are things that these are personal armies of the people that work in the resin casting area. So that's for something else. That's when I got to chat to John. Well, we'll come back to that actually. So these models here, these are not official models coming to the game. Okay. One of the guys that works the resin team, I don't know if he's the head of resin team or whatever, but one of the guys that works in the resin team, obviously, I'm not gonna lie, he's a bit of a mad scientist, and I mean that in the most complimentary and endearing way. He, when giving the presentation, he likes to wear a pith helmet, and he's a little eccentric, and I suspect that the resin fumes may have got to him a little bit. But he's absolutely brilliant, and I would never want him to change in any way, shape, or form. And often his part is the highlight of the tour. So these bits here are these are his creations that he's made in his spare time as being on the resin team. So this is like the Sasori arms on the Locust Mech's top, with bits from the Nax era and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think I did get some close-up of these a little bit later on, but yeah. So these are things that he's just made. He's just kit bashed the fuck out of these for his Konflikt 47 Japanese army. And then you can see he's got his Australian, British army. And a lot of the mechs that you can see here, he has made little slouch a lot of little slouch hats for the Aussie automated infantry. Yeah, there you are. Very, very cool. So let me go back to this. So this was a really, really cool, interesting development. So for traditional casting resin models, it's done by hand in jugs. So you get 2-part epoxy resin. You pour in a ratio of it. Warlord's got their secret recipes for how, for the ratios that they like to have in there. And then you use you mix it up, and then you use that to pour it into the molds. And the idea is that, they have different recipes for different parts, because depending on like the size of it and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it, and that's what they've done. It's basically all essentially been made by hand for years and years. But Warlord Games have invested in a bit of fancy technology, which is a machine that can do resin casting. So they did not have this last year. And this machine, basically what it does is it has two vats on it, for the two-part epoxy. And then you see there's like these twizzly swirls inside these dildo looking things, inside these nozzles. What the machine does is it sucks from both vats, and then as it goes down the nozzle, it mixes it. So they essentially have they've helped automate the process of resin casting, which I've never heard of before in miniature casting. Maybe other companies have been doing this for years, but I never heard it at GW, and I've never heard it at Warlord Games before. And the reason why they have invested in this is because they wanted to, because they needed to keep up with the demand from Konflikt 47. So, basically, they've been selling so much fucking Konflikt, they've had to buy a machine which can, I mean, I think an idea, I think the way they said it is if they do it by hand, like one resin caster can realistically sort of do like 20 molds in like 4 hours. So 20 to 40 molds in a day, depending on the size of it. This thing could do something like 200 in an hour or something mental. Like it goes, yeah, right. So this thing is, and this thing is working non-stop every fucking day. So, which is amazing. So we've all been hoovering up all of these mechs. We've been hoovering up all of these resin turret upgrades and everything, and they've got a machine to help them out with this. Now, they have people in chat are saying it's very standard in industrial applications. I mean, that's awesome, but that's cool. I assumed Warlord hadn't invented this, right? But I just never, like I said, never heard it in miniature casting specifically. But it's cool to know that they've like taken maybe something from elsewhere and they've like adapted it for their business, which is awesome, right? Now the thing I want to mention is that one thing I noticed is that they said they've been using this a lot for Konflikt 47. And I've been getting a lot of resin miniatures for Konflikt 47. And one thing that and I don't know if anyone else who's a veteran of Warlord might be able to back me up on this, but I've really noticed how crisp the K47 models have been. The resin ones, right? Like I've had some of the old ones, but I've picked up like a good deal on like eBay, like someone selling like before people realized how big Konflikt was going to get. I picked up like a Grizzly for like 20 quid. It was like this ancient fucking thing on like on eBay. It was clearly sat in someone's like pile of shame for like, you know, like a decade or something. But I've been getting so I've had some of their old stuff, but I've had a lot of their old bot action stuff, but a lot of the new K47 resin kits have been incredibly sharp. It's been incredibly fucking sharp and incredibly fucking crisp. And I've been saying for a while, like, you know, resin has a really bad reputation because of GW Forge World, but it actually is a totally manageable material to work with. And it's absolutely like fine. And it's interesting that I think a big part of that improvement might have come from them using this machine. Now, the team did stress that they're still getting used to the machine and it's not perfect and it's a little idiosyncratic. Like you'll tell it to do something and it'll sit there like and look like it's not doing anything, and then suddenly it'll go like and start going like mental and pumping all the bolts out. So it's not like a steady like process. So they kind of have to like watch it, and they have to watch like a hawk a little bit. But it does seem like so they're probably still getting used to it. It's probably not perfect, but I've personally noticed that a lot of the mechs that I've been working on have been, you still get the odd one that's a bit mental, but a lot of them have been a lot better and a lot cleaner than in the past. Yeah. So yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, that's awesome. So I just thought I always like to note where Warlord has improved their industrial processes over the years. So the first time I went around there, they didn't have the metal autocaster. Now they've got the metal autocaster. They didn't have the Cyocast. Now they have the Cyocast. And then now they've got the resin machine. So it really does look like they are investing in their manufacturing, which is great. You know, really, really good to see. They're not just taking the money and sitting on it. They are, they are taking the money and investing it back into their business, which is awesome. We love that. We love to see that. Now, here's something for you. Inside Warlord Games is an ancient relic from more civilized era. So some of you may not know, but Warlord Games was actually founded by ex-Games Workshop staff. A lot of the OGs who wrote the original versions of like Warhammer 40k all the way up until sort of 5th and 6th edition and so on, and Warhammer Fantasy and War Master and all that kind of stuff. They used to work at Games Workshop, but one by one they all left, and for many of them the reasons that they left is, well, Games Workshop going a bit corpo, right? But because many of them worked at GW back in the day, they have got some really cool things laying around the office, and it's not taboo, by the way. Like, they have people at Warlord Games, they don't talk disparagingly about GW or anything like that. They just see them as they're just a model company over the road. We're a model company here, kind of thing. Like, they're obviously in a league of their own. We're just doing our thing. You'd think there'd be more sort of bitterness and resentment, but I guess for a lot of them, they're very happy at Warlord Games. So, there's nothing like that whatsoever. They don't ever badmouth GW in any way, shape, or form. What you tend to find is they talk very fondly about the times that they work, about their time when they work there, right? And one of the things that they have there is the very first Thunderhawk. So this isn't any old Thunderhawk. This is the very first Thunderhawk that Games Workshop ever made. And you can see it's in this beautiful box with these this beautiful wooden box, velvet lining. It's all embossed and everything. It's got a key and a lock on everything. And it's got a certificate showing it. It is 40,001 Thunderhawk gunship certificate of ownership. And you can see on the box, burned into the lid of the box. I mean, it's very 40k, this, isn't it? It's all wood and metal and all that kind of stuff. And this is number 40k, but number 1, right? This is the very first one that was ever made. And when they were showing it off, they were talking about how it came about, how they wanted to make one as for like a diorama and all that kind of stuff, and whatnot. But they said that when the way they described it, they were like, it was never designed as a commercial product. The way they were like, we wanted to have a Thunderhawk. And, well, we had a factory, and it was our factory. And it was like, well, if you have a factory and you can't give in to a few passion projects and you can't make a few fucking models just because you want to have them, then what's the point in owning a factory? And I thought that was so cool. They're like, we didn't make this for anybody else. We made this for ourselves. And then when we started showing them off in like White Dwarf and stuff, people loved them. So in total, we made about 500 of them. And we just because people said that they wanted them. But the original design around it was, well, we just wanted them for ourselves. So we used our factory to make a bunch of Metal Thunderhawks. And this was the original one. Yeah. This is the original Metal one. So yeah, really, really, really cool. Really phenomenally cool. Very nice bit of history there. Let me just check a few bits out here. Okay, yeah, cool. Right, let me go back. I'd never seen that Metal Thunderhawk before. That was a new one for me, by the way. Just some close-ups of some of the Resin Guys' absolute mental creations. I love this so much. So this is like some sort of like oxen, buffalo, scorpion walker here. And then looks like an Oni, Kinu, whatever it's called. Brilliant, right? And these are a bunch of the black powder Arasaki, or is it package shot Arasaki? But he's upgraded them with the Shiboru rifles and stuff. Just really cool, right? Yeah, and there's a better mech, better close with that mech there. Then we get over to Cyocast. So Cyocast, also known as Warlord resin. So there's a difference between traditional resin and Warlord resin. And Cyocast is basically what you find some of your bits are made out. So, for example, the legs on the Panzer IV Walker, and the Nactal Ben, and the some other ones that's escaping me now. But they make a lot of stuff out of it. Now, it's basically a kind of like a plastic resin mix. And what's really cool about it is I always kind of like to describe it as like micro injection molding. So this is the machine right here. And this is a video I took of the process that happens. So what you do, that's the mold that the guy, so let me go back. That's the mold there. So what you do is you take it's like a flat mold. You take your mold, you can see all the ones here as well. You take a mold, you slap it into the machine, right? You load up the program that you want to use. I wonder if I can speed this up slightly. I don't know if I can. But anyway, you load up the program that you want to use. You press a button, and then it makes it. Now, like I said, I should be able to speed this up, but if I can't, then we'll just have to enjoy it. We'll just have to enjoy it. It's only 2 minutes long, so yeah. So the chap here is just explaining. Boris here is just explaining the whole process. You know, you put the mold in, you pick the program, you press the green button, you press it. It, as you saw, it raises the mold up into the machine. The machine then squirts in the liquid Cyocast, essentially, like the plastic resin mixture. The molds are made out of rubber, essentially, FRVN. It's not foam. It's kind of like rubber silicon kind of stuff. And then it takes a minute so it only takes like a few seconds to squirt the material in, but the rest of the time that it's up there is actually the cooling, because it has to cool and then set. Otherwise, if you open it up too soon, the bits just fall out. Yeah. Yeah. So again, he's just explaining that's the cooling and everything, and he's going to get the mold out in a moment. So this is the material that they use. So you can see there's it's a mixture of all these different bits that they can use. Oh no, these are just the different colors. So what's interesting is they can make the material any color that they want, but they've tried making it in other colors, and the moment that they make it not out of gray, people don't like it. So all of the plastic models that you buy from Games Workshop and everything, the color of the plastic isn't gray. They dye it gray. I know it's going to blow some people's minds, right? You can make the plastic out of any color that you want, but because 30 years ago or 40 years ago, GW decided to make plastic models a gray color. Now, when anybody buys any miniature wargaming stuff, they expect it to be gray. So if it's not gray, then they don't like it. And it is utterly and purely just an aesthetic thing, because that's what people have come to expect. That's it. That's what people have come to expect. Just the miniatures should be gray. It's like in the Dictator film with Sacha Baron Cohen, he's like, the missile must be pointy. If it is not pointy, it will not work. No, the Supreme Leader, the missile, the shape of the missile has no effect on the aerodynamics. And there you go. There are the models. So it just made all those models in one go. I'll go back a little bit. There you go. So he takes it out. So it's cooled down now. It's cooled down now, and they open it up. And here you go. That is the Soviet naval officer from the Black Death bundle that Warlord did. I don't know if they still do it. For the Soviets in Bot Action, and they actually give you a bunch of those models when they give you. you got to pick from one of 3 models. There was like a war dog for Hail Caesar. There was this naval officer. I obviously went for the Soviet naval officer. And there was a Totenrotter commander guy. I already had a Totenrotter commander. I don't have a Soviet naval officer, so now I've got one. Yeah, there you go. So there you are. That's kind of cool. What do we got next? I thought I found I'd found a sneak preview, and I snapped a picture of it. It turns out this is absolutely nothing. This is just the blister that comes in the starter army. I thought I misread it as Ghost Attack Commander, and it's not. So you can all just laugh at me for being like, "Oh my god, I found it! I found the Holy Grail!" No, I didn't. Now we get to the best bit for me, anyway. The best bit, Zulu. So I got to play the new Zulu game, and holy shit, is it good? It is so properly good. All right. So it's so for something like Zulu, I think, you know, there's the perception that it might be a bit of a very niche game, but it's a proper game, people. So the way they've designed it is it's essentially using the core black powder rules. So if you learn how to play Zulu, you learn how to play black powder, and to a lesser or greater extent, Hail Caesar and Pike and Shot. They all operate on the same fundamental mechanics, and then really it's just basically some of the equipment and some accoutrement and stuff that differentiates the different game systems. But if you learned how to play Zulu and then went, I want to go and learn how to play Napoleonic, then you can translate over to that system almost seamlessly, which is amazing. So this is not a gimmick. It's not a little side product. It's not something which they haven't put the effort into. How to put this? This is not like Warhammer Quest Dark Water, right? A little fire and forget side project, which, you know, is cool to have and to play through, but it's basically like a little mini board game kind of thing. This is a full-blown game. And not only do you get to recreate the Battle of Rorke's Drift, but the book and the miniatures, and we saw there's like cannons and artillery and stuff that are coming. The book and the miniatures are going to be expanded out so that you can fight the entire Zulu War. If you and a friend want to go through like the 12 battles of the Zulu War, or you want to have like a pickup game, you can do that, right? So it's properly cool and it's properly good, and it's just so much fun. It's so much fun, and you know, I got loads of close-up pictures of the miniatures. Considering that they're like 15 mil, they're actually very nicely detailed, and I got some close-ups of the Zulus as well. I mean, they just look absolutely epic, and I actually got to play this game as well. And I actually got to play as the Zulus. And we'll come back to that in a moment. As I suspected, the Zulus are so much fucking fun. Like, don't get me wrong, right? As a British person, there's always going to be that appeal to be like, at 100 yards, volley, fire, present, aim, fire, and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, first rank, fire, second rank, fire, third rank, fire. You know, there's obviously, that's cool, right? I love Zulu. It's an epic film. It's a timeless film. It still holds up today really, really well. You know, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think if you are an uninformed person, you might look at something like Zulu and go, this isn't very modern audience, shall we say. But if you actually look into, you know, the film Zulu, for example, then you will realize that there's a reason why this film still holds up today, because both sides are portrayed as incredibly brave, incredibly capable, and it truly is just a battle. It's just a battle, right? And it's just awesome. And playing as the Zulus in this game is so much fun. And we had a 2v2 game. So what happened was there was me, Chansey, and Alex, and Christian von Carmian. Yep, that's right. I spent most of the day with Christian von Carmian, the YouTuber, and me and all of us, like there's a big group of us, about 5 or 6 of us. We all went out for like dinner afterwards, and that was great. But us four, we did a battle. We did a 2v2. Me and Alex taking control of the Zulus, and Chansey and Christian taking command of the British. And me and Alex, we got to do the horns of the buffalo, right? So Alex came in from one side, and I came in from the other, and we surrounded the British using our superior numbers to stretch their defenses thin. And it's such a simple. It's like Black Powder, I think, is almost the epitome of Warlord game design. It's very simple to pick up. After like 2 turns, after like 1 turn, we basically knew what we were doing, right? But after like 2 turns, we knew what we were doing. After 4 turns, the guy that was showing us the game didn't even really need to guide us anymore. And we got through about 12 turns of this with in like an hour. So good. Now we were playing a demo version of the game, so there's as the guy said, it's a bit stripped back. Like we haven't got certain things like we haven't really taken into account like veterancy, and if you roll like a 6, you guys can do more stuff. They roll like a 1, they're like foobar and all this kind of stuff, right? Or maybe the other way around. You get my point, right? But the point is we got a really good feel for the core game mechanics, and it's so much fun because the game plays so smoothly. It plays so quickly. You just flow from one turn to the next. Each faction, even though, it's kind of like in bot action, and man with a rifle is a man with a rifle, but even though there's this basic sort of level, each faction feels very distinctive. And so we obviously, with Epic Zulu, you get that feeling even more so because the Zulus don't have guns and the British do. But the Zulus tend to be a bit more ferocious in close combat. That's not to say the British are any slouches. Let me tell you, it takes a brave, just ferocious Zulu warrior to bring down one of these British redcoats. But you've got the numbers and you've got the discipline. Like these guys, this is one of the things that often gets overlooked about the Zulus. These were not a bunch of people running around with no idea what they were doing. They weren't. They were not savages or anything like this. They were an empire. They were a civilization, and their military conquered a huge part of Africa, like a huge part of it, right? And so this is not just a case of having a bunch of British people shoot down a bunch of like colonial people or anything like that. It's not like that whatsoever. Like the British are absolutely, especially in Rorke's Drift, are absolutely on the back foot, and it is a desperate fight for survival. And you playing as the Zulus, you really do have that feeling of we have the overwhelming numbers, but not only that, we have incredibly brave warriors and disciplined. Like the difference between like the Zulus and the British in terms of do you pass your orders or not is only one. The British have the British pass their orders on a 9 or less. The Zulus pass their orders on an 8 or less. That's it, right? And the British obviously got guns. And the British get like 3 attacks in close combat. The Zulus get 4 attacks in close combat, right? So, like, don't get me wrong. There was don't get me wrong. Like the British obviously, they have guns. They're in a defensive position. They have the benefit of like modern trading and modern firearms and all that kind of stuff. But please don't get it twisted. The Zulus are incredibly fun to play because they're not just like a horde running across the board and then like breaking and all this kind of stuff. You still feel like you are running an army. you are running a military force. And that's because you are running a military force. And there's this really cool mechanic in the game, which is called like disruption. So you'll notice, for example, the some of the units here have got smoke on top of them. Now, a unit which has got smoke. So when you get shot in Black Powder, or in this version of the game anyway, the British roll 3 dice, and if any of those dice are a 6, then the Zulu, or this would go both ways, both sides had guns, right? But in this case, the Zulu units becomes disrupted. And that means next turn, or when they activate, they can't move. And the idea being that the rifle fire is so accurate and so intense that the first rank has essentially been like mown down, and it's kind of like causing the people to like trip up over themselves or to hesitate and all that kind of stuff. But you have to roll a 6 to be able to get it, right? And the British units have got 3 wounds, and the Zulu units have got like 4 wounds. So it's not just so when you're playing the game, what it really feels like, if you're the British person, you're really like fishing for a 6. You're like, please, I need a 6, because if I don't get a 6, this Zulu unit is going to close the distance and get to me. And if they get to me, I am going to be in deep shit, because there's loads of them, and they're really, really good with those spears, right? They really know what they're doing with them. So there's this really, like, on the British side, there's this desperation. There's this like, holy shit, we need to disrupt that unit, then try and disrupt that, and then try and disrupt that unit. And then on the Zulu side, you almost, the British are almost reacting to the way you're playing. So on the Zulu side, you're trying to essentially outmaneuver them. So you want to attack on a wide frontage, because if you attack on a narrow frontage, what happens is the units in front, if they get disrupted, they slow the units behind down. But obviously, but you come in on certain places on the map and everything. So you sort of come in, and you've got sort of like spreading out, moving around, enveloping the enemy. You've got to use tactics. This isn't a Zerg rush. As a Zulus, you've got to use tactics to try and overcome the firepower superiority of the British. And as the British, you have to try and use your firepower to disrupt the Zulu advance, slow them down, and to buy as much time as possible, because the British in this game basically have to survive like 12 turns, well, at least in this example scenario that we were doing. So it was really fun. Both sides had to use tactics. We had to use initiative. We had to use the advantage of our units, try and exploit the weakness of our enemies. This is what I'm talking about, guys. It's a proper game. It's not just a little fun thing. It's a proper game with proper depth, proper mechanics, and it's really fucking fun, and it's really fucking awesome, and I can't wait to get my hands on it, and I can't wait to paint the shit out of the Zulus, and I can't wait to paint the shit out of the British, and I don't care which side that I play, because both sides are really, really fucking fun in this game, and I cannot stress that enough. It's a proper game, boys, and I thought it was just going to be a little fun little side project that Warlord was doing. It really isn't. Well, I'm sure it is a bit of a side project. Like at the end of the day, the conflict is fairly limited in scope, but in terms of your ability to play a proper game with this game, you can do that. It's not like you're not going to end up playing. It's had the love and it's had the effort put into it. That's what I'm trying to say. It's had the effort put into it. So there you are. All right, now we get to the bit that I'm sure many of you have been waiting for. And that is the Konflikt 47 seminar. Now, there were lots. So basically how these seminars work is the guys from the design team come in. So we had John, Pete, and Dan. Pete is like the head of product. John is the, like I said, one of the designers, and he does a bit of lore writing as well. And Dan is like the head of the Konflikt 47 team. And he does a lot. He's the one that's been doing all the world building. So if you've been enjoying Festung Europa and you've been enjoying Invasion America, then Dan is very much the driving force behind that. And it's been, a lot of it's been like his vision and all that kind of stuff, which is awesome. Now, there were basically how these seminars work is they sit there and we get to ask them questions. And there were loads and loads of questions that came up. Things like, will there be new factions coming to Konflikt 47? And the answer was, there will be. It might be, we're focusing on the big five for the time being, but what we're doing is building a world so that in the future, we can add new factions. So we absolutely, so for those of you that want to know, are new factions coming? Yes. John really wants there to be French, but obviously it's up to Dan whether that actually happens. But long story short, the question of will new factions be coming is not a case of if, it's now a case of when, which is great. So that's a big question answered. People were asking about, will there be new Rift technologies that are coming? Ones that aren't in the currently in the book, and the answer was yes. Obviously, they've got the core technologies at the moment, but there will be probably more stuff coming down the line, stuff that we haven't even seen before. Things that would be unique to a certain unit, and therefore its stats would be added to the free army list, so you could see them on the PDFs and stuff. There was also lots of fun questions around like the lore and the world building. Lots of it was, was quite specific. But this is where I want to say, and I'll take some of your questions. I'll say this one bit, and then we'll take some questions from chat. So this will take like 5 minutes for me to go through it. So in chat right now, ask any questions you've got about Konflikt 47, and it'll probably prompt me to remember some of the things that they said. All right. But this is the really, really big thing that I took away. The first thing that I noticed with the team was that last year, you could tell they were a little nervous. Not massively, but you could tell they were a little nervous. And I think the reason they were a little nervous is obviously it was the launch of the game, so they would have been very tired, getting it across the line. But also, it was the launch of the game, and they had no idea how successful it was going to be. And I know there were definitely some people inside Warlord Games who were like, look, we've tried getting this Konflikt thing to work. It hasn't worked. What are you doing? This is a big risk kind of thing. But, and that's not that. Look, you want people who are going to push back, who are going to make you go, give me, do the homework, do the business case. Can you make this work kind of thing? Do you have a plan, or are you just winging it? So there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. You want people in your company who, you don't want everyone being yes men, do you? But you could tell there was probably a bit riding on this for the team. This year, they were very cool, they were very calm, and they were very confident. Because it's been over a year since the last launch. It's been about a year since the launch, I should say. And obviously the game has been an absolutely steaming success. And they just came out and said it. They were very, very transparent. And they were like, the game has utterly exceeded even our most optimistic projections for it. For what we wanted it to be a success, it has gone beyond that, to beyond anything we could ever have dreamt of. And they were very humble with the community. They were like, thank you so much. It's thanks to you guys that it's happened. You guys have been hoovering up the kit so much that that's created some of its own problems. Like we've had some production issues, like around the Soviet starter set, for example, but they are the good kind of problems to have. So that's really, really good, right? One of the things that they said they've learned, to give you an example, the first year of Konflikt, originally, they imagined that the success of the game would allow them to produce, I think it was like a couple of walkers and a couple of infantry units in plastic. And there were some other bits and everything else they'd kind of planned to use some of the smaller scale production capabilities like resin, metal, and Cyocast. So, and then think about how many plastic kits we've actually had. So originally that we were meant to get like maybe 4 plastic kits. I think we're now up to like 20 or something mental, right? So they've a lot of what they've done over the last year is they've been very much adapting on the fly, so that I've been bringing things forward. They've been capitalizing on the success of the game, and a huge part of that has been because they've had the upfront, because the money's been coming in. They were very, like I said, they're very transparent. Because the money came in, that allowed them to be able to do the upfront cost that is involved in plastic. Because other production, like resin, metal, so on and so forth, that doesn't really have an upfront cost for them because they make a lot of it already. Plastic has a big upfront cost, but then it's cheap as chips. Because of the success of the game, they've had the money to go, oh, well, we actually have the money to do the upfront cost for new automated infantry, for example. So let's do it. Yeah. So basically the game, I mean, I think they said, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I think they said in this seminar that as a company, overall, so not for Konflikt 47 specifically, but as a company, they have seen their sales increase by about 50 to 60% since the launch of Konflikt 47. So everything that they sell since they launched Konflikt, it has grown by 50%, which is fucking wild. That is huge. That is massive. And this game, you know, previously Warlord, you know, basically they, you know, Bolt Action was doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And then the other games, you know, made enough to have a nice little profit at the end or to justify their existence, but they didn't, you know, they couldn't rely on them, kind of thing. Now I think they've got two products that they can rely upon. They've got Bolt Action, which is still the absolute, which Bolt Action has seen a huge uptick in sales as well, because loads of people have been buying stuff for Bolt Action that they also use in K47. And loads of people who start with K47 have started trying out some Bolt Action, for example. Right? So, but now they've basically, now not so much pressure is on the Bolt Action side of the business now. Now you've got Bolt Action and K47, which are both doing amazingly. And it gives Warlord just loads of confidence and loads of flexibility for the future, which is awesome, right? So Konflikt has been an absolute blowout success. It's been a ridiculous blowout success for them, and they've basically come out and like confirmed that, which is awesome. You know, I just feel really happy for Warlord for that. You know, they took a punt on a project, they took a risk. Hey, in business, you take risks. They took a risk, and look how successful it's been for them. So yeah. Now, there was some other. Now that's not really anything that, you know, I mean, for us as the consumers, we should find that very reassuring. Obviously, it's nice for Warlord. For us, it's kind of reassuring that, hey, this game has been successful, and as a result, it's probably going to go from strength to strength, and it's going to be successful into the future. Awesome, right? But this next bit, there's two next bits that I want to, which I think is going to really get people breathing a big sigh of relief and just feeling like, thank God, kind of thing, right? So the first one is they could not stress this enough, that they did not want to invalidate anybody's models. They we know we've got a lot of stuff coming, and we know there's a lot of stuff that exists in the range already. And we know that when new stuff comes down the pipeline, it can be exciting, but we also know that it can be, you know, nerve-wracking, because you're worried about what does that mean for your existing collection. And there was a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink, you know, another games company who shall not be named kind of thing, right? But they said, we have no intentions of invalidating anybody's existing models. We don't want you to be worried about new stuff coming. We just want you to be excited for it. So whether you have support, because they also recognize that a lot of people have kind of taken a punt on this game with some of the older models, Like it's like Horus Heresy back in the day through the resin years. You know, they had that dedicated community that supported them through the resin years so they could then get to the plastic years. And they're very aware that, you know, there's a lot of people who have bought a lot of resin models knowing that it's coming in plastic, but they bought the resin ones anyway because they want to support the game. And the last thing they want to do is turn around and say, well, thank you, but fuck off. That's not what they're doing. So they were very keen to stress that those people that have supported them until this point aren't going to miss out, and that this everything that you bought up to this point is going to be totally fine. So that was obviously very, very reassuring. But here's the really big one for me. They spoke about their design philosophy when it comes to the game, because they had loads of questions like, hey, would you do this? Would you do that? What about this idea? What was this? And obviously people were just throwing out all their mad ideas because they're just really enthusiastic. What about Atlantis? By the way, I did ask about Atlantis and they were like, well, if we put it in the book, then maybe it'll happen. So if you're Squiggle Assured and you're like, wait, Atlantis is actually happening? I don't know. Atlantis might actually be happening, guys. Okay, I don't actually know, but maybe Atlantis is happening. I think they were joking a little bit. But the point is, they were getting loads and loads of questions, and the questions kind of like, you know, they said we talked with that, or well, no, we're not doing that, blah blah blah, and this kind of prompted this very Atlantis confirmed. This prompted this very open moment. Like I said, they were very, very transparent. And they said, we want Konflikt to be weird, but we also want it to be grounded. We have loads of ideas that we put into the game, but we have this philosophy and it guides us through pretty much everything that we do, which is grounded first, impossible second. And what we mean by this is there's loads of great ideas, but if we just shove them in the game, if you're not careful, you just shove a bunch of ideas in the game, it starts actually taking away from the universe that you're building and actually starts taking away from the game. Because the big question should always be, why does this thing exist? Especially when you're coming up with new weapon systems or you're coming up with new units, the question you always have to ask yourself is, what was the problem what is the problem that this unit is solving? What is the battlefield situation that occurred that then led to the scientists and led to the generals on each side going, this is the problem and this is the solution to the battlefield problem that we're facing? And so we're not just, and they were like, so we're not just going to shove, you know, random things in there because we think they're cool. We're going to put things in the game which makes sense as per the world that we're building, the universe that we're building, and the rules of the world. That's what they actually, like, no word of a lie. I'm slightly paraphrasing, but it was the rules. That was it. The rules that make sense of the world that we're building and the rules of the universe that we're creating. That's what they said. So they're not just going to go, oh, hey, wouldn't it be really cool if we had like hover tanks? Yeah, shove them in. Because as they put it, they originally played with the idea of hover. And that's why you've seen things like the hover Stuart. But they couldn't get the mechanic to feel right. They couldn't get it right. They didn't want to, it's kind of something that came along a bit late in the development of the game. And they didn't want to just shove it in as a half-baked mechanic they hadn't quite figured out. And then also, they said, well, let's just think about this for a moment. The Americans have only really just developed the backpack technology, right? They've only just developed like the jump pack technology. And the jump packs are what allow the, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So if they've only just developed the jump technology, we've only just developed the the jump technology for the mechs as well, because these guys don't fly. It's like jump packs back in the day in 40k. You know, they jet packs that you fly, jump packs that you make a jump. But a hover tank is something entirely different. A hover tank is something which is constantly flying, which is actually a massive step up from just being able to do a short bit of jump, a short sort of anti-gravity burst, as it were. This is a sustained level of anti-gravity. So this is actually a huge step up. And how would they have got to that step already when they've only just managed to get the battlefield application of the jump pack of the jump packs and the jump walkers? So maybe in the future we'll bring hover technology in if the timeline advances to the point where it makes sense. But right now, where we are in the Konflikt timeline, it doesn't make sense to have it in the game. And so it doesn't make sense to have it in the game at this point. We didn't put it in. And I heard that and I was just like, that's how it should be. More than anything else that I heard at the open day and in the seminar, more than anything else, the moment I heard that, it was actually like elation. It was so good. Because it just made me realize that this game is in the right hands. Because it's what people always talk about with like lore and stuff. You know, you have to have canon. Yeah, let's look at Star Wars, for example. In Star Wars The Last Jedi, they broke hyperspace. Because they thought that hyperspace was just going really, really fast. But it's not. Hyperspace is where you basically, you know, you go through one dimension and pop out the other kind of thing, right? But the reason why the new Star Wars movies are so hated by so many people is because because it just throws out all the canon. It throws out all the lore. It throws out all the rules of the universe that has been built, and it just goes like, "Hey, this would be cool, wouldn't it? Let's just fucking do it because we think it's cool." Yeah. So I think it's really important when you're building a game like this and you're building a world to have rules. And those rules define what you put in the game. And that way it allows you to put really cool things into the game, but it also allows you to not break the immersion. And that's one of the things that we've talked about a lot on this channel is the difference between an immersive rule set and an abstract rule set. The difference between an immersive game system and an abstract game system. An immersive game system creates emergent narrative. It naturally forms epic moments. And you don't question, like, why do they have phasing technology? You don't question why do they have big mutant bears? You know, obviously these things are ridiculous and they're silly and they're over the top, but it doesn't break your immersion because within the rules of the universe, it makes total sense why they have these things. Right? So all that allows you to get fully immersed in the game. But if you have an abstract rule set, then it's like, why does this thing exist? To serve the game mechanics. Why do we have this thing? Because well, that's it. Why does the rule? Why can I shoot 360 degrees? Why can I shoot every single weapon from my tank from a tiny aerial poking out of the top? Because the rules say so. Why does, you know, here's to use an example with the new I've spoken about this with Horus Heresy, and I've seen it with the new 40k as well. A Space Marine with a bolt rifle has two firing modes now. You've got focus shot and you've got basically like dispersed shot, for lack of a better term. The dispersed shot represents the space between like firing as much as possible, firing from the hip, holding the trigger, going full auto kind of thing. The focus shot represents the space between aiming. Now, if this was an immersive rule set, what would happen is the firing from the hip, the rapid fire version would mean you got more shots, but maybe you were less accurate. The focused shot would mean you got less shots, but you were more accurate, right? Makes sense. But because 40K is now an abstract rule set, what happens is the focus shot not only is rapid fire, it's also more accurate. So there's no, so it's not only is it firing just as fast, but it's more accurate. But on top of that, somehow the bullet magically gets stronger. The powder charge of the bullet gets stronger because the weapon goes from strength 6 to strength 5. Now, it's the same weapon, so it should have the same force, so it should have the same momentum, but it doesn't. Why? And the same, and it also has more damage. It does damage 2 now instead of damage 1. So but why does it do that? Oh, because we need the shot to be more powerful, because the idea is that this shot is then designed to help counter the new toughness 5 orcs and the new toughness 5 space marines. So it doesn't get stronger in a way that makes sense within the rules of the universe. It gets stronger to serve a game mechanic. Do you see the difference between an immersive rule set and an abstract rule set? Now, for me personally, I've always preferred an immersive rule set because I like to get lost in the game. Yeah. I like to get lost in the game. But there you go. So, but hearing that, I think it just really reassured me. And I came out of that seminar and I was just like, came out of that seminar and I was so excited for the future of the game. Yeah. But yeah. And by the way, I'm not going to get into the arguments in chat on, why the bolt rifle, gets more powerful or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It was merely an example, as it were. Okay. It wasn't the main focus of the video. I don't want to get distracted by it. We can always circle back round to it after the video and discuss it more in depth, right? But for right now, I'm not going to worry about it. Now, we had a few questions that came in from chat regarding the seminar. I think I answered most of them though on the way. But let's have a look. Russ was saying, love it. It's having the right tool for the right job. As for Ninja, right on. I'd really like to run Old World in a city of fortress. Unfortunately, it's not easy to do so, and as such, requires a lot of tinkering to kind of do something like that. There was also Marty. Do we get US heavy infantry with Tesla rifles? It's in the book. Yes, that is coming. They confirmed that. And then we had let's have a look. Ruslan, though I'm satisfied, I'm a bit more skeptical in the long run, like 10, 20 years if all Warlord stays, keeps. As the company becomes bigger, things could change. I think that is absolutely true, Ruslan, but I think you cannot worry about things that are going to happen 10 to 20 years from now. We can only look at what's going to be happening in the medium-term future. In 10 to 20 years from now, anything can happen, right? We don't know. We have no idea, right? But we can only look to, sort of 5 years ahead, as it were. And over the next sort of 4 or 5 years, this game is going to be in the direction. Don't worry about what might be. Enjoy what you know is going to happen. Does that make sense? So what have we got here? There's also some other questions back here as well. So I went a bit, didn't go back far enough. There wasn't actually that many. There wasn't a big question I thought there was going to be. Mal Gibson, plastic British Grenadiers when for K47 tip? So they said that it's going to be it's not going to be soon, but they are looking at how they want to do plastic upgrades for basic infantry. So I think long story short, we don't know. I mean, it's probably going to be next year. We don't know when next year, but I think the idea is that they originally, I think they were just looking at like some upgrade sprues. Now I think they're looking at some proper standalone boxes. So you're probably going to get the same amount of sprues in the box, so 5 in a platoon box, but you might get like 3 sprues of infantry, but then 2 sprues that are just full of Konflikt 47 bits. And these bits aren't just going to be aesthetic, although I'm sure many of them will be. Some of them will be also like weapons. Lots and lots of like weapons. So you'll be able to like give loads of people like M1X1 Thompsons, Pen P40s, maybe Tesla rifles. We don't know, right? So, by the way, it's very early days. So don't quote me on any numbers there. It might be they do 4 sprues of infantry and 1 upgrade sprue. It might be they do 3 and 2, whatever it might be. It might be something completely different. The point is, they are going to be doing proper basic infantry kits for Konflikt 47. They're playing around with some ideas of how they want to implement them. Do they simply want to be, basic infantry with new options? Or do they want to make them like dedicated specialist units like they have done with the British Grenadiers and the Shaburu rifle squads, right? So you see how like there's a difference between the basic infantry and the Grenadiers, and there's a difference between the basic infantry and the Shaburu rifle squads. They're kind of playing around with the idea of, do we want to just upgrade basic infantry, or do we want to leave basic infantry the way it is and introduce more human specialist infantry, not just power armor and mutants? So they're playing, see what I mean? Like, it's coming, they're just playing around with how they want to implement it. It all sounded very good, though. Do they plan to expand the timeline beyond 1947? And if yes, by how far? So this was a question that got asked last year, and they were like, well, we probably don't want to go beyond 1947, but we might be able to do something with like time frames and all sorts of stuff. This year, they basically seem to say, yes, we'll be going beyond 1947. We're not going to worry about if people want to nickname it, Konflikt 48, Konflikt 49, Konflikt 50. We're not going to worry about that whatsoever. We are now a lot less against the idea of expanding the scope of the conflict, as it were. I don't think it's going to be for like 5 years, though. So last year they said no. This year they seem to be a lot. They seem to be a lot more like, we're not going to worry about it. We might want it. What they said is they want to be able to tell stories within this universe. They want to be able to tell stories within it, and that might require them expanding the scope of it. Yeah. Do we get aircraft? At the moment, I think we're just going off the bolt action aircraft rules, but that question didn't come up. Will the pace of plastic releases increase? Yes. I think they said there's going to be by the end of next year, there will be a total of 50 plastic kits. So right now, I think there's about 18. So that means by the next year, they're planning on releasing about 32 plastic kits. Now, some of those might be upgrades, like we've talked about, like basic infantry. Some of those might be replacements of existing units, like we've seen with the Grizzly. Some of those might be brand new units that we've never seen before, but it'll be a mixture of all of them. Are Asset Shock Troopers and Legio Aquila coming in plastic? That wasn't asked, so I don't have the answer, unfortunately. They said loads of factions coming to K47. What ones? The one that got mentioned, the one they seemed quite keen on, was French. But again, I don't think that's going to happen in this. I don't think that's going to happen for a few years. But maybe if the game keeps growing and being successful, it may accelerate things. Any new Axis stuff? Yes. Specifically, I couldn't pronounce the name of it, but specifically, they confirmed Zombie Ursus are coming. And it was quite funny because obviously there were lots of things they were getting asked, and they were like, oh, we can't tell you that, wink wink, and all this kind of stuff. And one of the guys, John, was like, it's starting to feel like a Mordian NDA in here. Straining at the bolts. So yeah. Will we have late war France? I want to play French Foreign Legion K47. Again, that was they definitely seemed keen on that idea. What else do we have here? Any chance of epic K47? That question was asked, and it was definitely not refuted. They were a little coy about it, and they weren't like, definitely that's going to happen. I think it's now, I think the way to put it is it's now on the cards. It's definitely a long way away, but it's now on the cards. All right. What have we got next? Will the Americans get either the T-28 GMC Super Heavy Assault Gun designed and intended for the first, the breakthrough of Europe, and then got slated for Japan before the nukes dropped, and or a Walker? I think they did mention that they played around with the T-28, but I think they'd like played around with the version in resin. It was the turtle tank, right? Wasn't it? So I think they mentioned it, but there was no hard commitment on it. They've been playing around with it, but it was something that I think they played around with in their spare. Like John had been playing around with in his spare time, but not something that they had necessarily any plans to introduce. But they've been playing around with it. They've been checking it out, as it were. But it may not come. They may go with something completely different. But it's been in their heads at one point. Yeah, there we go. What have we got next? I think that's all the big ones. So we had any other questions that came in after that? Because obviously I've been answering some questions. Some of the ones might have come in. Early, mid, and late Rift War unit army building by the end sounds cool. Someone asked that question and they thought it was a good idea. They were like, right now we're trying to tell the story of the first Rift War, but maybe in the future, if things start expanding, they'll start breaking it down into eras and epochs and stuff. ETA on the plastic mullet. Very fucking soon. All right. Squiffis, can I run Soviet Konflikt with one gun for 50 men? Yes, but you need to port it in for bot action. What do we got next? Patrick Gates, they said they would hold off completely on new facts till the main Rift War story they have planned for the next 5 years. Exactly. So I think what they're doing now is they've got the confidence to enact this first phase. So we know that basically a lot of stuff is getting planned for 5 years' time. But so they've got the story they want to tell now. They've got the plan that they've got for the next 5 years. But a lot of what they were asking, a lot of what was being asked about and stuff, that's probably not going to come for years, but it is going to come. But maybe maybe sooner. Yeah, it is. Not everything, by the way. Just some of the things like new factions maybe might be coming a little bit later and stuff like that. But we'll see. Yeah. It might. A lot of stuff's already been accelerated for it. McCon, epic, amazing. K47, amazing. Epic K47, holy shit. I'll need to donate organs for how much I drop on that. think of how many fucking totem core you could have running around the board at epic scale, right? Holy shit, man. Are they planning on releasing novels or some lore books for K47? Yes. This was absolutely confirmed. And they didn't want to say too much. But they were like, we are in talks with novels and for proper novels. And I think the first idea that they had is so I think the first I'm not I think there's proper novels coming. One of the first things that I think they said that might emerge on this front is going to be some short stories. But when they say short stories, they don't mean like 6 pages in the book. They mean like 5 or 10,000 words. So like maybe like a little novella kind of thing. But beyond that, they are absolutely in talks for full-blown novels. And they did not say who, but they said they're talking to some extremely talented people, extremely capable people. That's what they said. Now, I've no idea, by the way, this is not a hint. It's not a hint in any way, shape, or form. Let me just make something abundantly clear. This is my personal theory, but I wonder if they're going to get Dan Abnett. Now, some people, whether you like him or you don't like him, I think most people. I think most people like Dan Abnett, but I've no idea if it will be. But if they fucking got Abnett, that'd be such a propaganda win. Yeah. If they manage to get Dan Abnett on this, I mean, God, can you imagine? Like, God, boys. Can you imagine Gaunt's Ghost but in Konflikt? New regiment, maybe an American regiment. Dan Abnett would probably do it with like some sort of crazy, because he likes. I mean, just Gaunt's Ghost K-47. That's all we want, right? That's all we want. The new regiment, very specialized in some way, and it goes through a series of like battles, and it goes from being like a green unit to like a really veteran unit and all sorts. Can you imagine? K-47 John Grammaticus? Can you imagine? Yeah, I mean, it would be summer. Gaunt's Paragons. Yeah. Now let's make something abundant. I cannot emphasize this enough. It very well may not be. In fact, it's probably not, right? It's probably not, but we can all dream, fantasize, and gush a little bit, can't we? So yeah, there you are. I need to know. I need to know K-47 Navy. Anything? Yes, but probably not for a long time. But they had a mad idea to do an underwater Navy game for K-47. But it's like, let's put it this way, it's one dude's mad idea and it may never happen. But the idea of someone was like, what about doing like what's it called? Victory at Sea, but K-47. And they were like, that would be a really cool game, wouldn't it? Yeah. Cool. Is it Cruel Seas K-47 or Victory at Sea? I can't remember, Patrick 90. I think, but one way or another, I'd like it to be big boats. I don't really want the small patrol boats. I'd like big boat game for K-47. Yeah. When does K-48 launch? We're stuck in 1947. I think the game's always going to be called Konflikt 47. Like 40K is always called 40K, even though now we're in the 42nd millennium. But yeah, I think we're going to go beyond. I think we're going to go beyond 1947 at some point. But they're going to be telling like, they're going to be telling it in epoch. I think the way it was, it's not going to be like an advancing timeline. Because obviously the issue if you've got like a constantly advancing timeline is that you don't want anyone to like ever die or anything like that. I think the idea is that they're going to tell like it's going to be like a series. So you're going to have this first series is the Rift War, which covers from World War II through to 1947. And then that would be like cut off, and then they'd tell like a new series. And that way each series can have consequences, which is important. Yeah. What do we got next? I think that's all the questions we've had so far. I think. I can't see anything else. People saying, what? I'm sorry, the first report? That's what they said. They said that's what I'm saying, boys. We might get the first one. There might be a second Rift War. There might be a prequel. We don't fucking know. Yeah, I love how everyone's like, wait, the first Rift War? Yeah. Any K47 Bulgarians coming? I don't think it's going to be quite that specific, but I think there's going to be ways for you to like use some of the bolt action books, like Armies of Commonwealth and stuff, and Armies of Italy in K47, but they weren't specific on that. The epic answer was kind of spread between K47 and general Warlord seminars. It sounds like some people in the studio are toying with rules for it and a few designs. Yeah, exactly. They didn't new official website for Konflikt 47 on redesign, considering the success. They maybe consider it being more like welcome. It didn't come up, unfortunately. Have we got anything else? Let's have a look here. Since Warlord is doing the Boer War game, do you think we will get a World War I game? And if so, do you think that influenced Konflikt 47 at all? This question, I don't know if it came up. I don't think it came up this time, but it came up last year. I think Warlord gets asked about bolt action World War I all the time. And I think that the sort of standard answer is we would love to. It's just I think it's one of those, it's on the idea tree, but we don't know if it's actually coming anytime soon. Yeah. I think obviously it's an obvious one, right? It's an obvious one, but I don't think I don't think we know anything about that. They did go back to the general seminars. Yeah, I missed that one. The big one that they did say, which I think is going to get people's dicks really hard, and it's not K47 related, but Rick Priestley and John Stallard were sat there and they kept talking about how they really wanted to do Cold War bolt action. They were like, they joked saying, oh, we would call it modern war, but actually a lot of this stuff is like 50 years old now. So they were like, it would be really cool to do. They were kind of very keen on the idea of doing what as it were, sort of like NATO, bolt action NATO, as it were. Yeah. No, they said yes. They said, did they confirm it? Did they actually confirm it? I wasn't sure if they NATO era was. Yeah, I remember sort of. I watched the video a bit today whilst I was catching up. So yeah, NATO. Yeah. Keep politics out of my war games. A war game set in the Cold be awesome. I just feel how political that would get. Well, someone asked them about would that, include things like the Arab-Israeli war, and they were like, "Of course." Warlord does not give a fuck, boys. They were like, well, I think the Syrians were using like the Joseph Stalin 3, weren't they? So it'll be interesting to see how the Israelis can handle that. So look, we have no idea if they were joking or not. I'm sure Warlord is aware that it's obviously quite a sensitive topic, but it's we talk about the 1948 one, not the obviously way more recent ones. Yeah. So but yeah, for them, I think the main focus for them was very clearly like they were talking about things like Centurions and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, but the point is, I think, they said the new IS-3 and the Pershing kit are each in development. Yeah, there you go. Damn the bleeding hearts, take my money. Yeah, I mean, we've Warlord Games has always been able to be like, look, it's just history. We just cover historical war games, and that's as far as it goes, kind of thing. And I, it'd be really cool to see them apply that to Cold War and stuff like that. So yeah. But yes, I think Cold War bolt action is absolutely coming as well. And you're absolutely right, Patrick. They did also talk about Hail Caesar expanding for like Epic Hail Caesar as well. So they wanted to, I think there was a lot of talk about Epic LCs starting to include things like the Greeks or, the Macedonians and everything. They talked about like successor states and everything. So yeah, frankly, I think every Warlord, everything's popping off at Warlord at the moment. So there's a lot of shit coming. Whether it's Hail Caesar, whether it's Bolt Action, whether it's Epic Scale, whether it's Konflikt 47, I think the general answer that is like, well, everything's going very well at the moment. So we're going to go through these projects and hopefully, this will lead to more success and everything. And if it does, then we will continue to do lots more projects. Yeah. So I think the point, the answer is to a lot of the stuff is a case of as long as things keep going in the right direction, then they're going to keep making more games for us to enjoy and add more things to the games that already exist. Yeah. There you go. But you know what, guys? I think that just about because that's going to be a very, very long stream highlight, isn't it? But I think that just about covers everything. So long story short, it was the classic sort of Warlord Open Day. Loads of new experience whilst I was there. Interested to see how Warlord's been up in their production capacities. But with the seminars and the Q&A stuff, I think the future of the Warlord games ecosystem is looking really, really good. This is honestly Warlord games. I said it about K47, but I think I'm going to say it about Warlord games as a whole. These guys are just exuding main game energy. Like they are just really enjoying making games, and they're just really enjoying people enjoying their games, and they're seeing a lot of success at the moment, and they seem to be capitalizing on that success in a lot of different ways. And for me, as someone who's been playing Warlord games for a really, really long time, it is awesome to see the company in many ways sort of mature in this way, blossom in this way. Look, they're not perfect. I'm sure there will be stumbles along the way. We've already seen them go through some growing pains, like the debacle with the Soviet Star Trek, which is what I'm sure we'll be going on about for years to come. But the point is, if they do make mistakes, they seem to learn from them. And the mistakes are being made because of the right reasons, not because of the wrong reasons. Like they're maybe trying to run before they can walk a little bit, but they want to fucking run. And that's great. And I never mind. No one's perfect. And I never expect a company ever to be perfect. But I do want the companies that I support and the games that I play to be going in the quote unquote right direction and to be made the right way. And Warlord Games really seems to be doing that at the moment. So yeah. There you are. Patrick 90, honestly, it sounds like they're well on the way to running LOL. It really does. It really, really, really does. And there's God, I mean, there's just so much to be excited for. There's so much to be excited for. And I honestly just can't wait for it. I want it all. I want to play Hail Caesar. I want to play K47. I want to play Bot Action NATO. I want to play it all. Yeah. So there you go. All right. We'll take some, but let me know what you guys think. Oh, one last thing. They did confirm new starter armies for K47, plastic starter armies coming very soon. And don't tell anyone I told you this, but the idea is that they're all going to be at least 1,500 points. Now that things are coming in plastic, it's going to make it a lot easier for them to do what they did in Bot Action, one box equals one army, and do the same in K47. But you didn't hear that from me, okay? You didn't hear that from me. All right. I just choked on my own spit. I was salivating so much thinking about the starter armies. And I did say I was going to show you some swag, but I won't. I'll most of it's stuff that you already know about. But there is. I have a couple of boxes here. I'm not allowed to tell you what's in them. I'm not allowed to show you what's in them. But I mean, I might get in trouble. Let's just say it's plastic. And it ain't infantry. And boys, the sprue ergonomics. The sprue ergonomics. You guys know me. I'm such a nerd for this shit. The sprue ergonomics. They make my dick so goddamn hard. I mean, I've never built these things before. These are big non-infantry things, right? I might not even need the instructions for them. Imagine building a main vehicle unit and not needing the instructions for it. Very exciting times. Very, very, very exciting times. My God. My God. I'm seeing some shit, boys, and I'm loving it. But I'll have to tell you all about it another time. That's everything I've got to say. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And I think that just about covers everything. Thank you for watching. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Redfield, 32, Jurgens, Miasma, Try Again, Bragg, RJ, Scorpion, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Nicholas Walsh, John Stubbs, Guardian, Varney, Sword, Fish Trombone, Picklock the Forged. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.